Cam, something came up this morning, and we did just talk about Bet Online, and we just talked about betting. But let me just say right now, this is a little different. This isn't like your everyday citizen betting. This is an NFL player or 2 or 3. Multiple players are being suspended 6 games for placing non-NFL bets. So let me be very clear about this. Non-NFL, okay? But the NFL has a strict policy. You can place non-NFL bets, but you can't place them anywhere near an NFL facility. That's a team plane, that's a team facility, whether you're in the cold tub, like we always joke about, or whatever. You cannot do it near an NFL facility. I think it's fair. People will say, okay, it wasn't on NFL bets. That's ridiculous. The policy is in place. And Cam, what are your thoughts on today's suspensions with Jameson Williams and so forth?
Yeah, it's tough to see, right? You saw Calvin Ridley, top of his game, and got suspended in 2022 for sports betting. And it's tough. Like you said, our podcasts, our shows are sponsored by Bet Online. And so, I'm a former player now, Jake. And so a lot of times when people ask me, hey, are you allowed to do betting shows? Are you allowed to engage in this activity? And for me, my best thing that I say is just, I can talk about the strategy of it, but I don't want to really engage in it because, number one, like I work for a company that works with the NFL, so I got to be super careful about that. And then 2, I think it's just great habit and great practice. The approach to betting, Jake, as a player, the way that I look at it, right, is kind of like social media, where it's like, hey, like if you post something, if your parents or family members wouldn't appreciate your post, you probably shouldn't do it. So when it comes to betting, I don't jump into it because I know that there's ramifications for it. So I just kind of stay away from it. Of course, like when it comes to, the NCAA pools, March Madness, stuff like that, I'll dabble in it. I might create me a bracket, but I won't really go that far into it. And so that's just me. I'm a little conservative with this. Some other folks are risk takers. And, your Calvin Ridleys and some of these other players that got in trouble for it, they're the risk takers. And so my suggestion to the folks, especially these rookies, these young cats, coming into the NFL, and just folks in the sports industry in general. If you play professional sports, I would understand game theory. I would figure out, right, the back end of it and what goes into it, but I wouldn't suggest jumping into it like that, right? You can go to Las Vegas and, do your thing there, but outside of that, I would stay away from it. Clearly, with this situation here, some of these young men were gambling through other sports, right? It's the NBA playoffs. As a football player, we always want to play basketball, or we always want to play other sports, be a rapper, be an artist. We always want to do other things outside of our profession, and that makes a lot of sense. But clearly doing that here got them in trouble. So, like I said, the message to the upcoming rookies, to the folks in the sports industry, when it comes to sports betting, to be honest, I would stay away from it. Understand the strategy, understand how to talk about it and navigate it, but I would just stay away from it to avoid situations like this, Jake. I mean, in 2020, I know there was another Josh Shaw who got in trouble for sports betting as well. We haven't seen him since then, and we talk about sometimes on the Off the Edge podcast with character issues of domestic violence. Like, those guys have gotten put back on the field, which is unfortunate. When it comes to sports betting, the cost is a little bit more. And so I think being conscious of that for upcoming rookies is important. It's a dangerous game. Jake, what are your thoughts?
No, I'm with you, Cam. I really, if I was a professional athlete, done with my career or not, I got to be honest with you. I'm not sniffing betting because it's the outside narrative. It may, people will say this is rigged, this is rigged, this is rigged, right? Well, the best thing to do is just steer clear of it, so you don't have that kind of, that elephant in the room that you have to address down the road. And so I think that's important. Miles Austin is another case where a former Dallas Cowboys receiver who was the receivers coach for the Jets loses his job due to this. And look, we can say all we want. I disagree. He should be allowed to bet on the NBA. Just don't do it, around the NFL and you're good. But here's the other thing. It's concerning to me, the decision-making behind this. Yeah, you could say Jameson Williams is a young kid and, this is a mistake. He's been in the NFL for a year now. He's not a rookie, one. And two, the NFL just made an example out of Calvin Ridley. So the fact that this is happening after is just incredibly concerning, I think, from that standpoint. Sure, they'll learn their lesson or whatever you want to say, but this shouldn't have happened. I mean, Calvin Ridley was enough. He missed the entire season last year, and apparently you took nothing away from that.
Yeah, Jake, it's brutal. I think what's important is just financial literacy in general, right? Even for regular humans, financial literacy. And within that, I think gambling literacy is going to have to take place. Understanding how to balance, quote unquote, a checkbook. No one writes checks anymore like that, right? But understanding how to manage your finances. And then also when it comes to leveraging your finances, a lot of times players get into these NFL locker rooms and they want to keep up with the Joneses. They see one person betting or not even betting, but doing things with their money or whatever. And they're like, oh, I got to put my last check, on this betting odd. And peer pressure can get to you and different things like that. So just with this piece, I do Bleav it's going to be important for the NFL to have gambling literacy, I think, or just, sessions every week. Like, hey, be aware of gambling. I know you just got paid last week. Be aware of gambling and just kind of push that among the players because Jake, it doesn't look like this is going to stop. You got a stadium in Las Vegas. Super Bowl is going to be there next year, so this is only going to rear its head even more. And so the NFL has to figure out how to get that message pushed upon their players, or they're going to see more guys being disqualified, and that's not great.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I'm glad we touched on it. It is a serious subject. I know it's weird coming after, promoting betting, I guess, coming after that line. But this isn't to say don't bet or don't gamble if you're, just an everyday person. This is just talking from the athlete perspective. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And it's a responsible thing to, I think, discuss, especially with a former NFL player. And I like your response about it because it shows that, you're looking at it, you're seeing it from the broader perspective, not, well, I can't do this, so I want to do it. It's like, no. It's just the elephant in the room. That becomes a weird discussion now, and you just don't want to be a part of it. So I totally agree.